Here on Radio Row when we're all sort of flying by the seat of our pants here. The Irish NFL Show is, of course, brought to you in association with Quimbat. I was saying we will be talking a little bit later about what we've learned about both the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks before they face off in Super Bowl 60. They both met up in San Jose last night for the official opening night. That's the first and only time the both teams have been in the same building before they face off in the Super Bowl this coming Sunday in Santa Clara. Kieran, I'll come back to you again. Welcome back. So yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, there's definitely a greater international flavor when it comes to covering the NFL. First thing to know, of course, fact is there will not be a Dublin game in 2026, although that doesn't mean that there won't be Dublin games in the future. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that for you and telling you what we've heard about. A Boston beat writer did say that the Patriots might even be interested in coming 2027. So the rumors are already afloat. But when we know next year we're going to have a game in Australia, a game in France, a game in Mexico, Mexican friends behind us. So just realized they've got news there. And so yeah, so the world has definitely come to this party, and this is your first time at this party as well. So how are you feeling?
I feel great. I'm like I don't know, a mixture between a rabbit in the headlights and a kid in a candy shop, because I've just come in here this morning. I've been looking all around, and it's just incredible. Like, I mean, we were scanning our credentials this morning. Mike Florio went in just before us, and you're kind of thinking, like pinching yourself, saying, "Am I really here?" As you mentioned, we're chatting to the guys from NFL Australia this morning. It's just a buzz. It's an absolute buzz. I walked upstairs with Craig this morning and just getting a feel for the place. I landed last night. I was hoping to come and join you. Didn't quite work out time wise, but I had such FOMO watching all the stuff you guys got up to yesterday, and it's just amazing to be here. Looking forward to the week ahead.
Your thing about the rabbit in the headlights already sort of like triggered me into one of those weird moments from last night, right? Because just to explain what the opening night is, and by the way, we have a package that's trying to bring to you the kind of things that both groups of players and coaches were saying last night. We managed to get a few questions in for players of both the Patriots and the Seahawks. And I know, like, usually we always should put this on social media, but we don't let our podcast or our video viewers listen into these things. So we'll have this package later on. But the thing about this is, like, on the Monday night, it's kind of an everybody who comes in. Like Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel show just sort of cut in on top. I don't know what was going on there. so
we're going to get a lot of interruptions this week between the people around us and the Bleacher Report arcade and ESPN going on. I think we're going to have to deal with some interruptions this week, but we'll carry on.
I know, yeah. Pardon the interruption or something like that. But it's funny because we were there last night, and like I was saying, the who was it, like Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel show was like cutting in. I was trying to get a question to Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs like answering a question, and he literally turned around to Guillermo and said, "Sorry, I'm answering this woman's question here. Start coming back." But then the Bad Bunny thing, the amount of questions about Bad Bunny was ridiculous, and to turn up to Will Campbell last night, right? And he's there, and he just wants to talk about sort of, you know, fairly plain things. And somebody goes, "So Will, are you more bad or more bunny?" And he's like, "Man, what are you asking me this for? I don't know what the hell is going on here." So
you know what? Just on that point, actually, and sorry to cut across you, it was very insightful to hear. I think it was a question you asked Joe Flacco yesterday as well. You asked him about the preparation for Super Bowl week, and that's exactly kind of the crux of what he got at. He said, for the players coming into the game this week, they have to do most of their preparation the week before.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they have to do as much as they can do football wise, get all of that stuff locked up, ready to go, because this week is an absolute circus. And you actually feel for the players being thrown into a mix of God knows what they can expect to be asked, you know, on the likes of yesterday.
But it's the thing, and obviously you were there in San Jose last night, so you got a sense as to what it is, and just trying to organize it. How does a player deal with that? Because I mean, like we think about the GA and the Ireland finals, like players don't really speak much before them. It's not really the way in Soccer World Cup, but they're put out on stage, they're up there, and then. What was the questions that are being asked of? Someone asked Sam Darnold, "Would you throw it on from the 1 yard line?"
Sam Darnold got an awful hard time, and so Mike McDonald was asked the same question. And if you were on the 1 yard line, would you run it or pass it? Obviously, alluding to Super Bowl 49.
Like, and you mentioned this morning, sorry,
the amount of shoulders there is ridiculous.
But Mike Vrabel was asked, "Is this a must-win game?"
Oh
yeah.
My God.
Now, I think that was actually a YouTuber doing it as a bit, as opposed to just somebody just like not knowing what questions to ask. But like seriously, you're coaching for the biggest thing, You're going for the biggest prize in American sport. You can put up there on a Monday night and someone's like, "So, the Super Bowl, it's a must-win game." It's bizarre.
I have to say it was a mixed bag last night, and I get what you're saying. In a lot of the guys kind of they were getting asked some ridiculous questions, but at the same time, I think a couple of them were kind of glad for it not to be football. You were saying Matt Collins refused to answer football questions.
Matt Collins would not answer any football questions. He will talk to you as much as you want about why he goes barefoot everywhere, because he was talking to some Australian guys. He was like, "Actually, I learned it from you guys. You know, you guys taught me how to be barefoot and all this kind of thing." But like, yeah, there's a couple of them that didn't want to answer any football questions, and like, some players are quite happy to be like, you know, get asked questions like, you know, are you Wendy's or McDonald's or whatever it is going on. But I mean, it was just it's a weird, just in terms of like what the players had to go through for Super Bowl week, the real circus around it, and we're a part of it, and it's great to be a part of it. It really does add a different complexion as the mental toughness you need to have to prepare to play in Super Bowl.
But you get a sense of, just even walking around here this morning, I'm only in the door and I can see it. I mean, we know it from, you know, from season to season, the circus and the hype around the NFL, but you can see what a marketing machine it is, just what a monster brand it is. And I guess, you know, these guys are trained for it. That's what they have to prepare for. Super Bowl week. I mean, like, I was wondering, and you know, I'd love to ask the likes of a Cooper Kupp this week, you know, how do you help prepare these guys this week, knowing that you've been in that situation before?
He was asked that a couple of times. I managed to listen to a couple of his answers last night, and the question I asked him, we'll have in the video package in a bit, but he was just like, look, sometimes obviously he's been there before. And I got to remember, he played in LA, which is like a ridiculous media market as it is in the first place. And I said, look, you can actually, if you find the fun in it and find the release from the training, then it releases pressure on the game. Whereas it's different. Like this morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, all the players get put up in their hotels. We ask questions by the sort of, you know, the quote unquote proper journalists. We won't get time to get down there this morning, but I mean, but that's it. Like that's the difference. And in sort of like Cooper, and I'm sure there are other players in both squads, you know, Milton Williams, for example, for the Patriots, who's been in there and knows that and will have to impart their experience. But Ben, I'm going to cut to you, because obviously you were there. Did you get a difference? I remember last year, and I mentioned this already in the show, there was a real different vibe you got from the Chiefs and the Eagles in the stadium. I didn't get a hugely different vibe from each team. I felt like both of them were a bit calm and down to business. I don't know what your sense of it was. You got more face time with players than I did. You got a sense of the different mindset that each squad is coming to this game based on what we saw last night.
It was all very serious. I mean, you got the odd player that was quite lighthearted and was you know, very happy-go-lucky and was happy to answer whatever questions like these ones we were kind of referring to over the last few minutes. But generally, it was quite serious. It was a lot of people were treating it like a business trip. I don't want to say they were harsh or standoffish, but you know, their answers were straight. I was quite surprised that, like, even a couple of the questions we asked, you know, on what what their mindset was going and what's the message coming from coaches this week. And a lot of it was pretty much, same as it's been all year. It's, go out there, do your job, don't do anything special. We're here for a reason. And I that's kind of that. They were quite boring answers for people who were looking for maybe something a bit more spectacular and for something to be, Super Bowl worthy. But these teams are here for a reason. They're here to win. And what they've done all year is what's got them here, and that kind of was the vibe all night last night.
Well, that's the word you used before last year about business trip. Last year, the Eagles were on a business trip. I felt like the Chiefs were really sort of going for themselves to be the sort of superstars. This year, again, I think both of these teams understand business trip, get down to things. You listen to what Brable was saying. I got a chance to listen to Mike McDonald saying. Funny, Mike McDonald was asked, "What is the Seattle Seahawk?" And I have to get the exact quote, but it's about just sort of this sense of resilience and never and always pushing forward. I'll try to call back to it after a video clip. But I mean, that is the sense you got from both of these teams. I don't think either of these teams are hogging the limelight too much. Even though Drake and everyone was trying to get in a question on Drake, but I think both of these teams understand. We've been counted out for a lot of this season here. We're not going to take our position here or our presence here for granted. Both of them knew the strength of the opponents that they're facing against. Again, I keep going back to the Chiefs here, but I mean that was the difference last year with the Chiefs. Chiefs I think came into this being like, this is our moment to become the greatest team in history at 3 in a row, and then they ended up getting wiped out because the Eagles were just more focused on the game.
In saying that, there was a lot of history there between the two teams last year, so there was a lot of chippiness and edge. I think the amount of respect from the two teams last night, you could see that when they had Darnold and Drake up on the stage, and they were having a conversation with from Red Zone. Scott Hansen was hosting last night, and he was asking all the questions, and the amount of respect between these two teams is extremely high, and I think that's kind of what. As I said, we led to a bit of a, not lackluster, but a very straight shooting answers all last night, because both teams know who they're coming up against on Sunday, and they're going to let their play do the talking.
Scott Hansen had a great one last night. This is a third Super Bowl between two coaches with the same name. Actually, I don't know what the other two are. We'll have to try and find that out.
Jeez,
I'll have to try and come back to that one.
Mike McCarthy and Mike Tomlin.
Oh, well done.
I think.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other one for the life of me.
Well done. I'm surprised you got that before Kieran did, I'm that's a jet lag sitting in now.
Space for the rest of this.
Craig's going to come in the second half with that third answer on it.
Yeah.
He's going to get the research going.
So we're going to throw to a few videos. Plus, if you are watching, just excuse the fact that they're all shot for social media. So there'll be a bit of sort of dead space in the screen, but you'll get a sense of all the players. In this, we have Michael Onwenu, Ramon Stevenson, Cooper Kupp, Elliot Wolf, who was the de facto GM for the Patriots, Ernest Jones, Devon Witherspoon, Marcus Jones, Jerron Reed, and at the end we have Jalen Milroe as well. So about 5 minutes, but you get a full sense as to what the players are. And when we come back, we'll have a talk. Again, we'll ask Craig what he felt about the teams, and we'll talk a little bit more about the news that Matt Nagy has now become the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. For now, we'll throw to the video.
This is Ireland. Rugged, wild, and endlessly captivating. A land shaped by history, where ancient castles whisper stories of the past. Where world-class links golf connects you to breathtaking landscapes. And where centuries of craftsmanship and culture are blended to produce world-class whiskies, savoured as music and laughter fill the air. But every journey with us is about people, place, and authentic experiences you'll never forget. This is more than a trip. It's the Dunes and Drams experience. Discover Ireland with...
Great odds, you're in control, you always bet responsibly, and you're not afraid to choose alternatives. That's why you bet with QuinnBet. Build your own unique football bets with Create a Bet. Winning team, first goal scorer, number of goals, the possibilities are endless. And with a 4-star Trustpilot customer service rating, why not give QuinnBet a shot? QuinnBet. We bet you love it.
This is your chance to experience the NFL like never before. The Irish NFL show is touching down stateside, and we want you on the team. Explore iconic football towns: Chicago, Green Bay, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and make memories with fellow Irish NFL fans on the trip of a lifetime. We've partnered with Bernard Hayes Travel, a trusted travel partner with over 30 years experience. We look after everything: flights, accommodation, transfers, match tickets, social events, and everything in between. An unforgettable experience. Picture yourself in the stands at Soldier Field, Lambeau, or MetLife, roaring on your team. Register your interest today at irishnflshow.com/tours. Don't just watch the game, live it.
Forgive us for having a few technical difficulties. We will get that video up to you in a minute. But we go back on that point we were talking about, the fact that this is the first Super Bowl the third Super Bowl between two guys with the same name. You're saying that both the last times are also guys named Mike.
It's all Mikes, and I'm sorry, Kieran, for not letting you get that before. I did Google it, but yeah, all Mikes. Mike Holmgren and Mike Shanahan was the third one. So yeah, it's apparently.
What year was that? Super Bowl?
It was 1996. So Holmgren Shanahan was Broncos Packers 96.
Oh, sorry, the Packers won that one.
Sorry, that was 97. 97.
The 96 season,
97, 98 season.
So odds are, if you're an NFL GM, hire a head coach with first name Mike.
Yeah, it's actually, but then you have to make sure that there's another in the other conference is also a guy named Mike that you could end up playing against.
Not worth doing.
Both the Giants and the Jets could do it. I think we have that video for you now, by the way. So we're gonna throw that out here. Sorry about that.
What are you going to take away from Sunday night as the biggest thing? Obviously, you want to take away the Lombardi, but on a personal level, what are you going to take away?
I would probably take away the journey. I think getting here now, you looking back and then looking at the year, it's been 20, 21, 22 something odd weeks. So it's really a journey to get here, and really it's the highest of the highest. That's why it's so hard to get here, but. Really just looking at the time and really taking things slow. I think in the beginning, you obviously that's the main goal, that's the mission, but you don't know what it takes to get there and what it takes to get all the way there. So really just going through the season and going through the playoffs, it's been something nice to reminisce on. The year is the year, but I'm always looking forward to the next game.
Jaron, you've had a 10-year journey. Like, this is the first Super Bowl you're going to. Just how big does that feel for you?
Oh, it feels huge, man, to be able to be here, playing 10 years. Some people are great players and never have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. But being on this team, man, with the kind of team that we got, the kind of guys we got, it's very special.
Devon, what's Coach McDonald's message to the defense this week leading up to the big game?
Just the same message as always, man. We got to go 1-0. We got to win first down. We got to stop the run, bro. So same message that normally we have, so nothing new.
Would you take any extra satisfaction from winning the Super Bowl in the home of your team's biggest rival?
In the home of my team's biggest rival. No, I'm not taking any satisfaction. That is just a stated plan. I've got to have so much respect for the teams that we've got. The NFC West is really good football. It's really good football. It's been really good football for a few years now, and all those guys that I've seen from the first 8 years of my career, see them multiple times. You build a relationship with those guys. So I got nothing but respect for them, and it'll be nice to win a Super Bowl, period.
What do you style your game off of?
Really, it's very broad for me. I'll look at Marshawn Lynch, and then I'll go watch Tariq Cohen's, highlights and things like that, just to get versatile, just to, try to do what all the great backs are doing. So I look at all the running backs film and just try to nitpick and see what I can take from them.
The end of last season, obviously, it was a 4-win season for the Patriots. Did you foresee the potential in what you had to work with to bring this team back to the Super Bowl back then?
Coming off last year and having the opportunity to ownership hire Mike Vrabel, that was really the catalyst, as he's been able to, really galvanize the team, and the players have really bought into the things that he talks about and the things that he's all about, as have I. And so it's been really rewarding to see these guys work together to accomplish that goal.
And just when Vrabel was brought in, people are talking about being a sort of like a culture hire, to somebody who brings in an entirely different way of thinking. When you're thinking about players in terms of people who are drafting, people who are bringing a free agency, how much thought is put into the culture or to how a player thinks as much as the skills package of what they have?
Absolutely. Culture is a huge part of it. We spent a lot of time talking to different people about the free agents and the guys we've brought in. And, I'd say in some cases, maybe we're a little bit fortunate, some of the guys that we didn't know as much about, but a lot of the guys we signed some of the coaches that had experiences with, or we've talked to people that were really positive on that. So it's been really cool to see these guys come together, and now we have the opportunity to do something special.
And as a final one from me, do you feel like you're trying to redefine the Patriot way, or are you just kind of taking this one day at a time?
I wouldn't say we're trying to redefine the Patriot way. I think it's about people and it's about relationships, and we're trying to build this thing the right way.
So obviously the 12s and Seattle are considered highly as one of the best places in sports to go play. The noise and everything is crazy, but you've also played in Tuscaloosa in Alabama, and that's also a crazy atmosphere. Which one is crazier?
Alabama for sure. But it's not fair though. You got to think there's 20,000 additional fans that's in Tuscaloosa, and so I'm gonna rock with College. College definitely way more loud.
And what's that QB room like with you and Drew and Sam? And what's the kind of vibes in there? And what do you guys do? In between practices to keep the vibes high?
Yeah, man, we have a great room full of guys that really want to win. We have shared success. No matter who's in, we always trying to push them to be the best, ultimately the best them. And so it's been a lot of fun. We have a great relationship between all of us, getting together, making sure we're all honed in on the game plan and getting Sam ready. That's ultimately our biggest thing is being backup quarterbacks right now. So it's been cool. It's been cool to be around Sam, and especially just to see him take us to the Super Bowl. So it's been a lot of fun.
And obviously it's year one for yourself, but what has Sam passed on? Obviously he's quite far into his NFL career. What's he passed on to you that you'll take with you going forward in your career?
Yeah, man, he's a veteran. I'm a young guy, so being a veteran quarterback in the league, seen so much, so many defenses, so many things that you've seen, and so knowledge is power. And so we have that power and understand how to prepare, understand how to be the best version of yourself. This is year 8 for him. And so now he's going to his first Super Bowl. And so he's seen so much, being a quarterback in this league. And so for me, I'm just able to learn and be around guys that been through it. And so it's a lot of fun.
Welcome back to Radio Row in San Francisco. We hope that gave you a little bit of a flavor as to what we found out in San Jose last night. A good 70 kilometers away, but still technically the same metropolitan area, when we had a chance to speak to both the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. Most of those videos you can watch back on our social media page. If they're not up already, they will be up in the next couple of hours. But we'd like to remind everybody, first of all, before we start talking a bit more about what we learned with the teams last night, that our Radio Row coverage on the Irish NFL show is brought to you in association with Dunes and Drams. And Kieran, it's important partnership. I think David Hayes from there is hanging around, but in terms of being able to sort of, again, part of what we're doing here, and the fact we have the word Irish in massive letters, and I'm gonna get on to Craig's jersey now in a minute, in massive letters behind us, is really sort of again trying to make sure that the world knows that Ireland and the NFL are very much in each other's worlds right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Dave is here from Dunes and Drams, and very lucky to be part of this partnership. He helped us out with the logistics of for this trip. And Dunes and Drams are offering bespoke experiences in terms of golf, whiskey tours. Doing Ireland the right way. When you think of golf and whiskey, synonymous with what makes Ireland such an attractive place to come. So Dave is here. He's here for a couple of days. He's doing a little bit of networking. So we wish him all the best. Dunes and Drams.
How do you feel wearing an Irish jersey, by the way? It's Irish NFL show jersey, but I mean, you've turned your back on Queen and Country at this stage.
It's a GAA jersey, isn't it? So it's my first.
I suppose it is
proper GAA jersey. It fits really nicely, and it's a
player
really
fit,
nice,
Kieran. It's a player fit.
Yeah,
I did worry if it would show the timber off a little bit too much, but we're good.
I ordered loose fit.
We went loose fit for the win.
I figured a loose fit because I met you in Tipperary last week, and I put it on. I was like, oh geez, I can actually wear this. I don't wear half of these GAA jerseys. It was too tight and fitting on me unless I'm in the gym, which I've only recently gone back to, in fairness.
Since my GA career came to an end, my very prolific junior football and hurling GA career, I find that the tight-fitting GA jerseys they just aren't quite flattering as they maybe were once.
Kieran has been on air in Radio Row for 20 minutes, and we already have the Junior B reference thrown in. That's exactly Junior A. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
How dare you?
Let's talk about what we learned last night. Because again, Craig, you were also in San Jose last night, speaking to the members of the Patriots and the Seahawks. Again, sort of, I think myself and Ben were talking earlier about just our sense that both of these teams are definitely here on a business trip. You were getting a different sense that you actually got a very different vibe from both of these teams last night. We were talking about this in the bus yesterday.
Yeah, I kind of got the vibe that the Patriots did feel kind of a little bit laid back, and they were quite willing to talk and not just willing to talk as in per person, because the Seahawks were that as well, but they had a general better availability. There was a Madden thing that was going on in the corner, which we had sketch.
This thing, right, I was trying to go up to speak to Pop Douglas, and Sky was speaking to him, and Pop Douglas turned around and goes, "Listen, sorry, man, I really want to talk to you, but I have to go play Madden right now." I'm like, I have Florida-based questions for you, Douglas. Come on. Thanks to Kieran Boyle for those. But yeah, it was just but
literally the Patriots, you could find them everywhere, and everywhere you looked there was a Patriots player, and it just felt like when the Seahawks came out, there were a lot more kind of there was a real togetherness with the Seahawks players, but maybe too much, because they were kind of in clusters and they were hanging out in clusters, and then there was just a massive contingent over at the Madden side of things. So I found it a little bit more difficult to find players to talk to, and I think that also reflected in the amount of media people around each player, which kind of made it a little bit more difficult. But both teams were locked in, like they were nailed on, and they knew exactly what they wanted out of this game. They were very complimentary of their head coaches and what they had done to kind of get them to where they were. I had a really good chat, and you would have seen it there with Jerome Reed from the Seahawks, who was kind of talking about the fact that this is a 10-year journey for him, and that it means the world. And you kind of got a mixture of kind of calm, but also a little bit of tension in there from each player that you spoke to. And it's a big game. Like, of course, it's going to be like that. It's a
must-win game, though. That's the question I want to know.
It's a must-win game, as some people might say.
So yeah, we have a good question, by the way, at Liverpool Giants P53. So there's an interesting mix of teams there. Hey lads, Sam Him for Mead. Who do you think is a better run game ahead of this particular matchup? I think it's fair to say that if we were having this conversation 2 weeks ago with Zach Charbonnet back in the Seahawks, you'd probably say them, as much as Ramondre Stevenson and Trayvon Henderson have been quite a good partnership. The big thing with Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots, the fact that he was a turnover machine last year. His body was like, it was a factory that turned footballs into footballs in the hands of the defensive players. As is the case at the start of this season as well. That's been a really big part of improvement for him. Trayvon Henderson is a rookie. He hasn't actually lit up too much in the postseason, I suppose, in the regular season. But I mean, that's kind of been the story for most of the Patriots offense, with the exception of maybe Hunter Henry. But I think if Charbonnet was still there, I would definitely say the Seahawks have the better run game by all, but he's injured now. So I don't know what your take on that, Kieran, is.
I think you're looking at. I think Stevenson and Henderson have more of a big play threat. The big that they can break off a big one at any given time. Whereas I feel like the Seahawks have more of a. I guess more of a system, more of a run, a better run scheme. That run design system from our scheme from Clint Kubiak. They have shown the ability, especially in the later part of the season, to methodically march down the field, control the clock, control time of possession. It's been really effective in the latter half of the season when the explosive, downfield pass game kind of escaped the Seahawks a little bit as the season wore on. So two different styles. You see Henderson and Stevenson tend to go around the outside a little bit, whereas Walker has been trucking it up the middle and have been really effective in doing that. So I think both teams are going to try and shut down the pass game as best they can this week. So both run games could be very important, and whichever shows up could be the difference between winning or losing. Because you made an interesting point. We were having breakfast this morning, and you talked about how the Patriots are going to try and make this a boring game if they can, if they want to stay in it and limit the explosive plays. So it's going to be, the run game could be very pivotal then in deciding who edges it.
But that's the thing, and I think that was definitely a sense of some of the questioning, and as I was talking to some people last night, the sense that the Patriots have to make this a game about physicality. That makes this game about warriors. If we go back to what Mike Brave was saying, they need to make this a game where Jack Smith-Njigba doesn't blow off, where Jake Bobo doesn't get a touchdown, despite the fact it was only his fourth catch of the year, but as was the case against the Rams. If this turns into a shootout, I just think the Seahawks are just in a better strain of form to actually hit their wide receivers, hit who they need to go to, have Kenneth Walker getting those big plays. Whereas the Patriots defense just needs to keep this, like from a Patriots point of view, I think that the part of the victory is sitting at halftime. It's maybe 7-all or 10-all. It's been a bit charged. It's been a few punts, but the game, it's mistake, very low on mistakes. And we're going to talk a lot about turnovers over the course of the week. So let's not burn up those talking points too much, because it's very important in the context of both of these quarterbacks. But definitely, like from a Patriots point of view, it's trying to limit what Seahawks can do in terms of the talent they have. and then just waiting for the right moment in the second half to hit Diggs in the wing, or to have a Drake May run to get into a touchdown, or something like that.
Call to the house.
A booty call to the house. That's exactly what it could be. When in California and all that. So I definitely think that's the kind of part of victory. And
yeah,
I think you probably got that sense last night that the questions the Patriots are getting, I think there's a sense, like all the defenders were being asked, well, do you feel like you sorry, let me restart that. All the offensive players I heard being asked, like Diggs was asked this, I think Drake May was asked this, like, do you feel like it's almost like they were being asked, do you feel like your offense is letting your defense down in the playoffs so far? And Diggs was like, well, listen, we're playing some of the top 5 defense in the league. We just got to do what we got to do to win. I don't care if it's an ugly victory, but it's a victory. And I've heard that said a few times by a lot of different Patriots last night. I didn't hear any Seahawks saying that. So I think that's a key difference in terms of how I think both of the teams know their part of the victory is the Seahawks need the ball out. The Patriots need to keep it calm.
Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time at the Leonard Williams booth yesterday. One, because I'm a fan from being his Giants days, but also because I do think that Leonard Williams has, as he's gone through his career from the Jets to the Giants, now at the Seahawks, he's got better with age. And he said that, what he's done is he's learned to kind of block out all the noise and all of that. But a lot of the noise that was coming last night, especially to the Seahawks defenders, because I heard the same with Julian Love when I was there, Devon Witherspoon when I went over there, everyone was saying this defense is so aggressive and have stopped so many big play teams this season. Do you feel like that this is like the identity of the team and what needs to come for the rest of the game on Sunday? Is that going to be the mentality that you, as an offense for the Patriots, have to beat us because we are the ones to beat right now?
Yeah.
And Leonard Williams was very, very complimentary of the dog system that they have and the lockdown system that they have. And he said it all just becomes from camaraderie there. And I do think that, like you say, it does need to be a boring game because I do feel like that defense is scary.
Yeah. Both of these events can be scary, but I mean, the Seahawks one, I've been very complimentary all year for the Seahawks as to how well they scheme, and how well they. There's we always talk about offensive misdirection and play action, all this kind of thing. They're very good at defensive misdirection.
Yeah.
They're coming for the blitz. Oh no, wait, they've actually double covered all of my wide receivers here. So, I don't know if you have any take on sort of based on what you've heard there in terms of what is actually. Sorry, here's the real question: if the Patriots' path to victory is trying to keep it physical, keep it low scoring, whatever, what is the Seahawks' path to victory? What do you think they need to get right this week?
I think they're going to be looking for turnovers as much. And you mentioned we're going to talk a lot about turnovers during the week, but they're going to want to win the turnover battle. So they're going to want Sam Darnold to be as clean as he has been for the last 2 games, and that has not been the.
And that's a very good point. Sorry, like as much as Sam Darnold has given him 20 turnovers, and I see Bill Simmons go on about this in the playoffs, he's been clean.
Yeah,
and that's when it matters, and that's exactly when we thought that Sam Darnold would explode.
Yeah,
and he hasn't.
And if he can play a clean game. For me, it's hard to see where the Patriots are going to get the edge, because that Seahawks defense is, they're going to be opportunistic as well. They're going to be looking to. It's not as if Drake May hasn't turned the ball over this season, even in the playoffs.
More so in the playoffs.
Darnold has been the cleaner quarterback, but I've come back a good few times throughout the season. I've had the opportunity to interview Michael-Shawn Dugar, and we've talked about Nick Emenwari. I know I've spoken about him a bit on the show, and just his impact as a safety who's almost like a linebacker. He's got the speed and the positional sense to cover so much ground across that middle third and almost allow the corners to just have at it. Those corners are allowing him to do his thing in the space, and so it's limiting options and being able to have that ball hawk mentality as well, and that turnover mentality, and just really allowing everybody else to just front up and do their own job. Just that one guy covering so much space around the middle. I think he's a real key, and a leader on the field as well. Like you saw him when Rick Woolen had his moment of madness. Like, he was one of the guys catching him on the sideline, shaking some sense into him. He's a rookie, So when they've got these kind of players, these young leaders on the field, and you talk about the defense, it's kind of, I wonder, are they annoyed that there's no name for them yet? They haven't got, there's no Legion of Boom, Purple People Eaters, or anything like that.
I don't care.
I haven't heard anything
if they end up as Super Bowl champion defense, I don't think they'll care about having or not having.
No. I'm not, okay, but for me, they're gonna have to get a tag at some point, especially if they do what they're hoping to do this week.
Well, if you have a good tag, like, comment or let us know what you think the Seahawks defense should be. The dark side is that what they're called? They're called the dark side.
Okay,
sorry.
our Seahawks fan here, Ben,
is Seahawks man.
I stand corrected.
I haven't heard that. yet. It's not quite caught on as much as the Legion of Boom has.
No, I have heard.
Why are they the dark side? You don't know. It's the same when we don't know why Drake May's nickname is Drake May. Come on over to the dark side. So I know. Will you think the dark side will catch on?
It's got the Star Wars reference in there, hasn't it? So, everyone loves a little Star Wars reference in there somewhere. I have heard it a few times. I don't think it has caught on as much as maybe the Legion of Boom has done, but they walk away with a ring, and I think it solidifies that.
All right, well, let's park the Super Bowl for now. We've got two news talking points to touch on. Firstly, from an international point of view, I think in my intro, one of the best intros I've ever done, by the way, that was just not recorded on sound. I mentioned the fact that we now know that Dublin will not have an NFL game in 2026. That doesn't mean that's not going to happen again in the future, but the next year's slate of international games include 3 in London, 1 in Germany, 1 in Paris, 1 in Spain. We know Spain is now on the schedule for the next 2 years. 1 in Brazil and 1 in Mexico. I think that's all. I don't know if there's any I'm missing. So, Kieran, I'll start with you first. We were talking yesterday, about just how great it will be to have a game in Paris, the fact that Charlie Smith is coming here. In terms of the future for the Irish games, if 2026 doesn't seem to be on the schedule, it doesn't mean 2027 won't be. I think the Jets and the Patriots may be two teams I've heard rumored as people thinking about it. Of course, rumors are very, very unfounded at this far out in the process. There's so much that has to happen between now and when it comes back. But I mean, I think it's fair to say that Irish fans would take a good game once every maybe 2-4 seasons, especially considering where we come from. The way the NFL is expanding, like, there may be a few cities that may start to sort of go in some sort of rotation as opposed to having games every year, as opposed to Germany, we know has a game every year. I think Germany should have multiple games every year. Personally, I think they should be going to Madrid, to Munich and Berlin instead of one or the other, because I think the appetite is there for them to expand in Germany more. We know Spain is going to be getting games consistently. The Mexico announcement means that they're getting games consistently now. In Brazil, they've gotten games consistently. This time they're going to Rio now instead of Sao Paulo. Whereas Ireland, it feels like, look, we're still by far the smallest market that the NFL has played in internationally. I don't think we can sort of, try to inflate our own importance too much here. But I definitely think the fact that we are still in a future rotation means that in the future we will see Croke Park be filled with NFL fans again.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you mentioned the word appetite. Mightn't be a popular opinion, but I'm not quite sure it's a bad thing that that Ireland isn't getting a repeat. That they're not running it back straight away in 2026. I feel like that the occasion and the atmosphere was so immense in Dublin this year. It'll be very hard to replicate that year on year.
Because momentum going out the London game. I'm like, the London game is always great. It's just the momentum's gone elsewhere because we used to only be in London, and now it's in London and Spain and Germany. So I think it's a fair point that we don't have to, hunger is the best sauce when it comes to the way of building events. What makes Steelers such a special thing this September?
Yeah, absolutely. It shows, as many catchphrases. Hunger is the best sauce with the appetite. What seldom is wonderful is another way of thinking. But like you mentioned, the momentum hasn't dropped in London, but the atmosphere was definitely different. Like being in Wembley, being in Tottenham, being in Dublin this year, Dublin felt like a really, really special occasion. I'm not just saying that because we're Irish, we're biased, obviously, but the London, as much of its fantastically positive atmosphere as well, it was a happy atmosphere. It was much more multi-coloured. I think the fact that the Steelers put so much weight behind the Dublin game. If you gave the Patriots, the likes of the Boston market, another really strong, connected, Irish connected team, or even the Bears, Chicago, even the Giants, if you give one of those real Irish American cities the opportunity to build that market again, they would fill the place with home fans again.
Well, that's a good point, because let's look at the economics of this. I mean, the
price point that the tickets were set at a much higher point than even some of the London games were previously. A third of the fans were from Pittsburgh. We were fortunate to host a few of them for our event with Brian Bannon in Dublin City Centre. There's a lot of people from over from Pittsburgh for, again, it's a different thing to what we expected in other European countries in terms of the amount of travellers going outside of Ireland. As I said, the Irish fans pretty good at saying it, but I mean, I feel like there's people in the NFL who understand that to make Croke Park work and be as bright and vibrant, you can't just put any two teams in there. You need to have teams that are good, that have good people traveling, and then teams that have from cities that have Irish connections, such as New York, Boston, Chicago, in a way that it wouldn't, if let's say the Jags played over in Dublin. I don't think, as much as I like the Jaguars and their games in Wembley are always great, they have the connection with Dublin there. If they came to Dublin, I don't think we had the same level of colour that we had with the Pittsburgh Steelers to understand.
Yeah, and I think that one of the big problems with what's going on in London is the fact that it is almost an oversaturation because of how often the game was played there, in the terms of it being the only international game. So a lot of the teams were rotated across the decade plus that they had just games in London. And a lot of the fans will go, well, I've been to London, so I don't need to go to London again. Whereas you look at like the Steelers and you talk about the Irish heritage and the links there.
Or even Berlin. Like Berlin was very like Dublin.
Yeah.
Old City was a life around about people. It was a great place for us to go.
Exactly that. And like I was saying, like with the Steelers side of things, you've got the connection obviously with Tom Rooney to Dublin, and it just made sense that with that fan base, they were going to come over in droves. And you touch on the Boston side of things, it's Boston Celtics, that kind of little tie there with Ireland. So I think if the Patriots were to play a game at Croke Park, everyone's going to come on.
I don't want to talk about the Patriots playing Croke Park because it's definitely going to happen. But if we can manifest it,
absolutely.
Ireland Patriots.
Absolutely.
So yeah, look, there will be more international news, I'm sure, of course, week, so we'll touch on that for sure. The last thing was talk about the fact that some news going around the NFL. Matt Nagy will be the new offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. Greg, I told you on this first. When I was in Kansas City earlier this year, and there was a lot of questions coming from the Kansas City media, the confidence that we had in Matt Nagy, saying, "Oh, well, Nagy's bad, it's fine." But I mean, what's the? I'm not quite sure what the future was for Matt Nagy. I felt like by the end of the season that Andy Reid was talking about all these trying to sort of ship him out. He ended up being let go from Kansas City. He's now become head coach, not head coach, defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. So what do you think of that move?
It was a surprise. There was a surprise on there.
There's no audio. It's not muted. I'm not.
No, actually, let's touch on that another time. We're going to be going live later on today. I'm not quite sure if there's some sort of issue with connectivity. Yeah, thank you very much for listening to 3 Hours in Motion.